Your tenure at the company goes all the way back to 1980. You have literally seen it all, haven't you? And my first question is, as you look down at DC, is this anything new to you? How radically different is it?
You know, this is the first time in D.C. that we've looked at tax reform since 1986. So that aspect of things is very different that's going on in Washington. We're actively involved on the issues that are relevant to us. But it's always exciting when administrations change.
With tax reform in mind, I'm just wondering how specifically the kind of reforms that are set to come will impact your business. I know you've invested a lot in solar over the last few years, a lot of that due to tax incentives at the state and federal level. Do you expect changes there, and do you expect the business strategy to change at all?
You know, regarding incentives for renewables, I'm not hearing a lot about changes to the current tracking of those tax incentives. They're set to expire over the next several years, as tax incentives are typically designed to do, and I haven't heard a lot about changing any of that. The issues in tax reform that affect us involve the deductibility of interest expense. That's very critical to a capital-intensive business like our own. So that's one of the issues that we're looking at very closely.
So do you expect it to be easier to build power plants and pipelines in the environment that's coming from D.C., Steve?
Well, you certainly think about infrastructure as critical to our business. And an emphasis on infrastructure build coming from this administration would be favorable in our view. Hopefully, some of the regulatory processes will be expedited. We'll continue to work with all stakeholders on all of the assets that we build, however.
Steve, you're in a particularly heavily regulated environment. Your business really gets regulated. Are you a fan of regulation, or are you a foe of regulation?
We've worked with regulation for decades. My entire career, I started out, we were building nuclear plants under regulation. Now we're building wind and solar farms. We've dealt with regulation very well and throughout our states and at the federal level. We think that's a core competency for us. We work very well with commissioners and customers to get the right mix of infrastructure and assets to develop our business favorably.
And as you suggest, a lot of your regulation is state and local, but at the federal level, are there particular regulations that you're urging the new administration to take a look at and change?
Well, certainly we're interested in the ability to get projects approved at the federal level. We have investments in Atlantic Coast Pipeline, a very important pipeline coming through the Carolinas and Virginia area. We have ownership interest in the Constitution Pipeline moving up through New York State. And we think these projects make so much sense for bringing low-cost energy to customers. So we'd like to see those regulatory processes expedited and moved favorably. That's a critical area for us.
Steve, you've trimmed some of the foreign assets and you've boosted your domestic position. And I wonder how that evolves in the coming years, because your M&A strategy, it seems to me and to many others as well, has been around near zero electricity utility growth within the United States. And to get that growth, you've got to buy it. You've got to buy it on Wall Street. And I wonder whether that changes in the next 4 or 8 years.
Well, in terms of what we've done over the past several years, we're very pleased. In 2016, we divested of our international business. We moved out of a domestic merchant generation business in 2015. We've developed a gas portfolio business with the acquisition of Piedmont Natural Gas. So that's been our strategy. It's a portfolio transition. As we move forward, we've got a lot of organic growth in these existing businesses that we have. A tremendous amount of investment coming in the grid and in decarbonization, in generating cleaner energy. So there's a lot of great opportunities as we rebuild all of this infrastructure.
So Steve, just to wrap it up, is the buying spree over?
Well, I think, as I said, we've got the businesses we want, and we're going to develop them organically. Great opportunities there. We will keep our eye on the markets for assets, as we have done in the past. We'll be opportunistic and we'll be frugal with our cost of capital. But great opportunities out there as we rebuild the grid of the United States and decarbonize.